Okay, we're in the middle of an Agadata, and we had the dialogue between Rabbi Elazar and Partha and Chanina ben Tradian. They were both taken by the Romans. Rabbi Elazar was taken on 5 accounts, and Rabbi Chanina was taken on 1 account. Rabbi Chanina prophesied and said that you're going to get off, but I'm not. So we saw yesterday the 5 accounts of Elazar, and in fact he got off. He was let out. And today we deal with the tragic story of Rabbi Chanina ben Tradian, one of the Asari Ruge Malchus, and as we're going to see, the reason for the destruction of Rome. The reason for the destruction of Rome. Okay, so we're beginning on Yud Zayin Amid Beis. Yud Zayin Amid Beis, 3 lines up. Asyuhu Rabbi Chanina ben Tradian. They brought to trial Rabbi Chanina. Amru loy. Amaiko asakta baraisa. Why are you busy learning barabim? Amalahu kashet tzivani Hashem elakai, like Hashem commanded me. Miad gazru the streifa. They would go to the streifa to burn him. And val ishtoi la riga. They were going to kill his wife. Yal bita liyeshe bekuba shel zaynis, and his daughter to be placed in literally a tent of zaynis. So not only is he punished, his wife's punished, and his daughter's punished. I love the streifa. Shahaya hoige Hashem be'oisi yosav. What did he do? He was hoige Hashem be'oisi yosav. Rashi says on the bottom of Amid Beis, the last Rashi on the page. All of the streifa. Lama nenash kach lefi shahaya hoige Hashem be'oisi yosav. Darshu ba'arboim shtayim oisi yos. He would dash in the 42-letter name of Hashem that we don't have. And he would do whatever he wanted. In other words, it seems he was able to go ahead and create things. I think that he was able to do that. So he shouldn't have done that barabim. And Toso says on Yud Aleph, Yechesam and Aleph, Hoga b'shein Pirsha Kuntra Shidoshu b'mem beizosios Yosef b'mashu Oisev Roiv Oilam Mefarsha. Most people explain Shayakariv the Pirish Oisios shall Shem HaMiyuchid Yosef shall Shara Tevois. In other words, he pronounced the shame, and he didn't go ahead and say advus. Okay, and Taisus goes on. So we're not like exactly what he did. How could the great Rabbi Chanina have done that? For Tanan, elu shein lahem chelik le'im haba, ha'oi me'in torah min hashamayim, bein tchias hamesim min ha'torah. Abishol loy ma'afa hoige Hashem b'yosav. So let Abishol, why was he able to do it? Much as the Islam made of it, he did it for the person to go ahead and to teach, to know what to do. Kiditana. The sum of last place, you should not go ahead and you're able to learn to do, you're not allowed to learn to know that you would be allowed to do, and that's why he did it. Now this is very strange. What do you mean my time onish? The Gemara just said that the reason he was punished was because he was hoige oisi yosav. So Taisus says that there was a different gersa over here. That there was a different gersa over here. If you look at the second Tosfos, the Slamid of it, Pirsha country, so me HaKadosh Baruch Hu medagdek with tzaddikim kuchutas Zorah. That's why he was punished. That in other words, even though he did a Islamid, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was very makbid on him. We spoke out that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu is medayik with tzaddikim kuchutas Zorah, because they're being punished on the midas hadin, not midas harachmim, being punished on the midas hadin. So Taisus v'nirish lehoyu kosev b'sifrei elamai taima ayonish. In other words, Rashi had a different gersa. Rashi said the reason he was punished is Hoige Hashem b'yosav. The Gemara is asking now, why was he punished? We know why he was punished. So if Rashi explained it over there, it must be he didn't have this Gemara over here. He must have had that. He didn't have this Lislamet of it, that he did it. My time, I honest. The Havi. Now, what about Ishtay La'iriga? Why was his wife sentenced to death? Because she wasn't Meicha, she couldn't go ahead and she didn't go ahead and contradict him and tell him not to do it. The person has the ability to go ahead and make a macha and to go ahead and criticize the person. You'll be punished. She was walking before Gedolei Roimei. I have written down over here, not Rome in Italy, but a city in Eretz Yisrael, because it was in Eretz Yisrael. Omru, common noise, there was a city in Eretz Yisrael called Romi. Common noise, how beautiful are the steps of this girl. Miyad diktek b'siyaseha. She took it to heart, and she was medacted the way she walked. Behind the Amar of Shimon ben Lakish, my dichsiv, the pasuk says, Avoin akevai yisuveni, is avoin, the avoin of my heels, they surround me. Avoin shadam dashba kavav boilam hazeh, the various that a person is dashed in this world with his heel, misuvan lo'liyam hadin. Shasit yasai shlashlan tzatko olim sedin. They took all three out. Each one of them was matzdik the din. They accepted their fate. Hu Aimer, he Rabbi Chanina said, Hatsur tamim pa'aloi, the chol derachav mishpat, kelamuna ve'navel tzadik v'yashahu. V'ishta ama kelamuna ve'navel, perfect. And bitu yamer gedola ha'etza, v'rav ha'ali loya, asher inecha b'kuchais al-kol darki. And she says, what? B'nei adam loseis le'ish ki derachav v'chipbi ma'aliyah. Because she accepted, Lashon accepted a faith. Amar Rabbi, kama gedolim tzadikim alalu. How great are these tzaddikim? Shen is damin lehem shloisha mikrois shel tzaddik hadin b'shas tzaddik hadin. In other words, at the time someone is being taken out to be killed, and you could have a million things on your mind, or one thing on your mind, and nonetheless they were able to go ahead and mechuvin the pasuk. So Rabbi considered it an unbelievable thing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu allowed them to matzdik the din b'shas de petira. Tan Rabbanan, Kishachol Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma, when Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma, this we said this Gemara's yesterday, we said we're going to get into the conversation. Kishachol Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma, Halach Rabbi Chanina ben Trajin Levakroi. Rabbi Chanina ben Trajin went to visit Rabbi Yossi. So Amaloi Chanina Achi, Yati Yadea She'umazu min Hashamayim Emlichu, right? Don't you know? He was giving him teichacha. Don't you know that these people, the Romans, they were given rule over the Jews, and shechribes beisai, they went ahead and destroyed our Beis Hamikdash. The safres hechaloi, they burnt our hechol. The harges chasidav, they killed our pious ones. The avdes tuvav, and they lost the good ones. Madayin hikayemes, and it's still around. Ani shemati alecha, and I heard about you, Rabbi Yossi to Rabbi Chanina. Shati yoshev vaysev b'Torah u'maka kahilas barabim. The sefer munach la b'cheikecha. So Amaloi min Hashemayim yirachmu, says Rabbi Chanina, they'll have machmanas min Hashemayim. Amaloi ani omer lecha devarim shel tam, says Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma. I'm telling you a practical thing. I'm telling you things of tam, of reasoning. Yata omer li min Hashemayim yirachmu. When you say that min Hashemayim they can have rachmanis, Tamani Rabbi Yossi says, I'm wondering im lo yisuchu eschov v'seif the Torah be'esh. I'm not going to bring you in the Torah nation. That's what he said. So Amaloi Rebbe, Ma'ani l'chai olam haba, said Reb Chanina to Reb Yossi, will I warrant the next world? Ravavi Yuches Amid Aleph, when it gets wide, about 6 lines down. Ma'ani l'chai olam haba, Amaloi klum ma'isa boli yadcho. Did any ma'isa come to your hands? So Amaloi, so Reb Chanina told him, Moishal, this is what we brought in yesterday. Moishal Purim nischafali v'moishal tzedakah. I had mixed up money of Purim to give for Sudas Purim to Aniyim, and it got mixed up with Moishal tzedakah. The chilaktim la'aniyim, and right, and I was mechali to aniyim. In other words, I used my own money. I used my own money to make it up the difference that I gave out, because I know I gave it out, and then I gave it out for Purim. It was mixed up. I gave it out for tzedakah, so they needed money for Purim, and I went ahead and I gave my own money for Purim. Amaloi, so Yossi ben Kisma said, "Im kain mechelcha yechelki." If that's your chelik, I should be with you. And that's your goyrel, yehi goyrel loy, I should be with you. So this is a very, I have put in my Gemara, I get emails from Rabbi Fran, and I put in my Gemara, this was probably in Shmos, Yud Aleph, he said that, you know, that when they left Mitzrayim, none of the dogs barked. And as a result, we throw in the vela to the dogs. So the good question he asked. The Gemara, the Rashi tells us that by the Sfardim, they went ahead and they jumped in the ovens. They killed themselves. So why we know that the dogs were rewarded, but we don't find ourselves saving crickets to give to the frogs. The frogs were Ma'aseh Nefesh. They went and jumped into the fire, literally. And the dogs, they just didn't bark. Yet why are they rewarded? What's so special about that? Anyway, he said something very interesting. He said that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, one of the qualities that he really respects, and we've spoken about this many times, is to be Mavral Midaisav, to go against your Midas. The last time we spoke about it was Makas Yud. We spoke about David hearing that these men are waiting for him to die, and it was Mavral Midaisav, according to my son Reb Simcha, and he didn't go ahead and kill them. And he listened to them and said that he was happy that they want that he should die, that he should be able to go to create a big base of Midrash to be oil regel. Mavral Midaisav. It's Gemara in Mishnah. So he wants a title like this. He says that the frogs jumping in fire wasn't being marval mitoisav. Frogs are, they don't know what they're supposed to be doing. They're frogs. But a dog, the base of a dog is to bark. That's what dogs do. They bark. And they have movements, they bark. They bark. The dog was marval mitoisav. He went against its base nature. And thus, it was not what? It wasn't, it was rewarded. He quotes from the Sefer Torah, which is the Balatanya. He quotes to answer, this is a really strange Gemara. Reb Chanin is teaching Torah B'Rabbim. He's teaching Torah B'Rabbim in the biggest sakana. Ad kedei kach, he was toifus, they took him, they grabbed him. And he asked Reb Yossi, will I get to the next world? What does Reb Yossi answer? He doesn't say, what are you talking about? You're just teaching Torah B'Rabbim, you're marbitz Torah Shen Kamohu, and you're asking why you're going to the next world? It's obvious you're going to the next world. You're an unbelievable marbitz Torah. So that's not what he said to him. He said, tell me something that you did. And he tells him, you know what? I took out of my pocket tzedakah and I gave it. Said Reb Yossi's, what was his reaction? I should be with you. I should be Zoycha to be with you. I'm mad in the Gemara. What do you mean? Why wasn't him teaching Torah enough to get him there? Why wasn't it enough to get him there? Why was it necessary to go ahead and say that he did the mitzvah of tzedakah? So he wants to suggest the following. The Torah, the Balakanya wants to suggest the following, and it goes in line with Marvel Midaisav. I'll be makdim it in Parshas Vayera. No, yeah. Okay, in Parshas Vayera, where's I'm thinking out loud. Where's the Maisa with Loidu Benosav? It's in Lech Lecha. Okay, so what happens? They come to Sidon. I don't know. I'm lost for a second. Where's the? Hang on a second. After Bismillah, Kadosh Baruch Hu is Avram. They tell Lot, you get sorry, you're gonna have a baby, and now the Malachim show up in Sidon. They end up. Lot sees them in the street. Lot goes out. He goes ahead, and he, against all odds, he's Moisa Nefesh to bring them into his tent to go ahead and protect them. And they come in, and we know what happens. The men of Sodom surround the house, and they want the Malachim against all odds. Vayiskel kimes Lot. Vayiskel kimes Avram bes Lot. It says that Hashem remembered Avram, he sends Lot out. Why does he remember? Says Rashi, that Lot, when he came to Mitzrayim, Lot heard Avram say that Sarah is his sister, and he didn't say anything. That saves Lot. Now, if you think about it, if you were alive at the time of 1942, 43, and you were a farmer in Poland, and a Jew comes and knocks on your door and says, save me, and you take that Jew in, and then the Nazis surround your house, and you go out and say, no, don't harm him and everything. It's exactly what Lot did. In Sodom, you were not allowed to have guests. In Germany, you couldn't have Jews. And nonetheless, Lot, that's not what saves Lot. What saves Lot is the fact that he did not inform on Avram Mitzrayim. Good? It wasn't enough. For them? It wasn't enough. To a complete, in other words, that's a physical act. The other one, Shev al Kasa, he just didn't say anything. Here Avram said something, he didn't do anything. Says the Maral Gavaldik. Says the Maral that Lot, the MS, that he took Orchim into his house, was just a byproduct of growing up in the house of Avram. It was he in Avram's house. You breathe hachnasas orchim. It was not possible not to be machnas areach, but it wasn't your own schus. It was something that was you were addicted to going ahead and be machnas areach. You had to. So that Lot went out of his way to do this, right? It's not so much a schus for him. It's because he was in the house of Avram and he did it. Guys, Lot left Avram. You know why? He loved money. He saw the lushness and the beauty of Sodom. He saw that, and that's where he went. Despite the fact that the men of Sodom didn't stop him. However, when he goes to Mitzrayim and he hears that Avram says Sarah's a sister, if he would have spilled the beans, he could have made a huge fortune of money. He could have got the dowry, and he didn't. That was his schus. That was his own schus. The Mela says the Balatanya, that's a schus over here. Reb Chanina taught Torah could be he was addicted to Torah. It could be Torah was such a part of him, but maybe it wasn't like his own schus. Like he needed to find his own schus. And what was his own schus? Perhaps he suggests that money was his own, like by Lot, that he loved money, but perhaps Reb Chanina had trouble parting with his money. He was frugal, and the Mela, that was what saved him. That brought about his salvation. So that's what the Balatanya wants to answer this difficult question of this dialogue between Rabbi Yosef and Kisma and Mad and Rabbi ben Trajan. Okay, continues the Gemara. Where am I up to? Okay. First wide line. At Shenifta, Rabbi Yosef ben Kismi was Nifta. V'holchu kol gedoli roim l'kavra. They all came together to go ahead and bury him, even the Romans. V'spiduhu esped gadol. V'chazrasan matzul Rabbi Chanina ben Shajan shayoshev v'isik b'Torah. U'machal kilas b'rabim b'sefer Torah munach loy b'chekoi. Heviyu v'karchu b'sefer Torah. They went and they wrapped him around the sefer Torah. V'kifu b'chavilis murois. Not only that, they put around his heart water sponges that he go ahead and it should die slowly. V'tzisa behen esar. And they lit it. They view sivugan shel semer v'shorum b'mayim, and I'm sorry. The chabilis muras is bundles of twigs, and they lit them. And they also then he brought sponges of water v'shorum b'mayim v'nichem aliboy kadesh leiteitzin ishbasai meherei. Shouldn't I quickly? Amaloi bitoi. His daughter said, Abba, erecha bekach. I should see you like this. Amaloi ilmoli nisrafti the vadi. Had I gone ahead and been burnt alone, however, whoever the one who's going to go ahead and be mevakish the embarrassment of the Torah, who yavakish al boini, will be mevakish my al boini. So Amalei Talmid of Rabbi Ma Torayet, Talmid said to Rabbi Chanina ben Trajan, what do you see? Okay, Amalehem Gillian Yisrafim. I see the parchment being burnt. The oisios parchas af. And the ices are flying. They said you should go ahead and open your mouth, so let the fire in, you'll die quickly. Whether the one who brought me in will take me away, rather than what I should go ahead and kill myself. So Amaloi, Kal Tzidanuri, said the Kal Tzidanuri, that's the executioner. Rebbe, if I go ahead and put more fuel and I take away the sponges and that you should die quicker, would I get to the next world? Amalei Hain. Swear to me, swore to him, Miyad here, Bishal Heves, Venoto Sapugim, Shal Semem, Aliboy, Yatsan Nishmasav, Mehera, Afu Kofetz from Nafel Techa Or, this executioner jumped into the fire. Yatz the Basko Vomar, Rabbi Chanina ben Trajan, the Katzin Nuri, Mizum Lachai Olam Haba. So Bacher Rebbe Voma Yesh Kain Olam B'Shachas, Yesh Kain Olama B'Kama Shanim. Okay, now if you take a look, this is Peloploim, guys. This is Peloploim. There are so ruig in Malchus. There were so many of them. We know the most famous ones. Rabbi Kiva, Chutz B'Sam Turgimin, Yehuda Rebava, many. So if you look at the base on his base, guys, You look at days on the days. At top Taisus. The Gemara was discussing that, Akash Baruch Hu is going to say, come and get your schar. And it says, Roi Michayeves. The Lashon Roi Michayeves. What's the Lashon of Chayeves? Top Taisus. Ishim Dichsibahu v'koru lehem gevul Risha. Rasha Targim Chayava. So they were called Risha, and the Targim Rasha is Chayava. The Nimsa b'Maisa Merkava, ki b'Maisa de Rebbe Chanina ben Shradin, Nigzer al Roimei Chur ben Gadol. Because of the Maisa of Rebbe Chanina ben Nigzer, they were going on Rome Chur ben Gadol. Ultimately, Avodah Suri Rugi Malchus, the one that took down Rome, was what they did Rebbe Chanina. They did Rebbe Chanina. So a little twice as that. Okay, so I have a nice piece. Again, I used the sefer called Shiuri Hayom from Rebbe Michal Zulba, and his Bekiyas is unbelievable. And he brings in, this is his own words. Tzarech in Dvarav, Sha'amar. Shem Haya Nisraf Levadai, if he was burnt alone, Haya Adava Kashalai. That would have been hard for him. If he was burnt alone, that would have been hard for him. Achshashay Nisraf Mesefer Torah, but now that he's being burnt with the Sefer Torah, ain't a Kashalai. Shakadosh Baruch Hu Yidfa Esal Boinai. In other words, alone, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wouldn't be Toiveya his embarrassment, meaning embarrassment, worse than that. But now with the Sefer Torah, it's better. V'yesh lefarish she'ika she'elis bitay hoysa erecha bekach hainu ketzad yitachen she'es hester panim kol kach at she'him sorry from Yisrael. How could it be that Kadosh Baruch Hu's hester panim is so much that you're being burnt? That's what a kasha was. V'alzel amallah, and that he told her. Shim hoyes sorry from Yisrael levada, if they're burning him alone, Rabbi Chanina hayadav bekashlei shema yisla Kadosh Baruch Hu's panav. In other words, he, Rabbi Chanina, would have thought if he's being alone, maybe a Kadosh Baruch Hu is hiding his face. The Nachrim the Nachrim, they're croaking in your heichal. Where are you wondering, Hashem? The Nachrim are oppressing your sons. Where's the Gevura? Like Oma Gibar. The Afhu, they're going to say not a Gibar, but Afhu Hukshalai. Ketzad Yitzhak Kodesh Baruch Hu es Panav Kol Kach. That was Rabbi Chanina's. That's what Ayegvura Sav and Aresav. Dalzeh Heishiv. If he was burnt alone, Shema Omna, Makadosh Baruch Hu Yastes Panav, Layitfam Hemes Al Boinai. Aval Kivon Shesarfu Es Atayra, Vadai Layishtak Le Makadosh Baruch Hu. Kadosh Baruch Hu will not be quiet. Vigales Gvuraslev and Aresav, he'll reveal his Gvura and his wondrous Aleihem, Ashi Chalim in Oilam. So that's why we understand that Chanina ben Tradian, why him, guys, because the other ones, they were killed alone. Reb Chanina was, Reb Akiva, Reb Chutzpis, everyone of the Asuri Malchus were killed alone. The Taveya on the Romans were that Reb Chanina was burnt with a Sefer Torah. It was a Sefer Torah that was their downfall. That's Meduya Kishmak. Why of him? That based upon that thesis, why of all the Asuri Malchus, the one that was killed, the one that caused the destruction of Rome, it was what? It was, and that was Reb Chanina was telling him that HaKadosh Baruch Hu certainly is going to go ahead, and therefore it'll be Megala his Gevura. He quotes the Taisus b'shem Brisa the Ma'aser Merkava, Bryce the Ma'aser Merkava, Ki Ma'aser Rebbe Chanina ben Chadin Nigzin al Roimi Churban Gadol. V'amar Sham mefarish Sham she'afa pishe b'shar Ruge Malchus kigoin Rebbe Akiva v'chaverev nasadim gam kein misas mishonos yikamok ha'ma'aser shel Rebbe Gamliel nisraf itay sefer Torah mishum kein nigzer alehem Churban Gadol. Very geshmak b'shat, guys. A very geshmak b'shat to explain the dialogue between the two. I'd like to suggest something. I don't know if it's true, but since this is my show, I can suggest it. The idea of the Gevillas being burnt and the Oisias of Pereches Ba'avir. I would think to say that this is always the case with the Sefer Torah. In other words, of course, when the Sefer Torah is burnt, you're burning the parchment and you're burning the ink. But the Kedusha, we know, when you finish the Sefer Torah, the parchment and the ink infuses this with Kedusha Sefer Torah. It's unique, right? So when it's burnt, so good you can burn the physical, but the Kedusha of the Sefer Torah, that's not burnt. That remains, that's Nitzchias, that stays forever. And that's what, and I was thinking perhaps that's Pshat, in any time a Sefer Torah is burnt and the Kedusha leaves, where does it go? It goes into the next Sefer Torah. And when this other Sefer Torah is written, it goes into that Sefer Torah. Because Hashem does not keep Oisius without a place. What's the biggest raya? Sarai, right? She's name is Sarai, and same to Sarah. What happened to that Yud? Because Baruch Hu irritated Hoshea to Yehoshua. In other words, the words of the Torah, There's only X amount of words to the Torah, and the Torah was written before the world, and that's Nitzchias. That Torah is ongoing. So perhaps I can suggest that when the Oisei is Poreach Ba'avir, right, that's every Sefer Torah, and then that Kedusha would, and next time another Sefer Torah is written, that Kedusha is infused in this one. Perhaps that's something.
I think I have a riot to Rebbe. The Osios of the Sefer Torah, 600,000, can they get the 600,000 seminal neshamas in the world? So the neshamas keep getting recycled also.
Nice. Very good. Nice. Okay, great. We have to write it up. Maybe I can make it into Rabbi's edition. I know I'm getting into the blog. I'm getting into Rabbi's edition. Okay, I think it's a nice suggestion. It's nice to hear. Okay, weiter. Again, these Gemaras are classics. These are classic Gemara. Okay, now, Bruria, the Vesayud Reb Meir. Bruria, the wife of Reb Meir, Barte Reb Chanina ben Trajan, was the daughter of Reb Chanina ben Trajan. So, guys, if that's the case, Bruria's sister was the one now in the base of Batei Zionis, correct? And there's Reb Chanina ben Trajan's, three things happened. He was burnt, his wife was killed, and his daughter was put in a base nus. Bruria, who was married to Reb Meir, right, was was the sister of this woman. Bruria now tells Reb Meir, get her out. And this is the Gemara where you get the name Reb Meir Balanes. This is the Gemara that comes where he's called Reb Meir Balanes is because of this Gemara, Reb Meir Balanes. So Bruria de Visayed Reb Meir Barte Reb Chanina ben Trajan, Havi Amra Loi Zila be Milsa the Yasve Achte Bekubishos Nus. It's a bizayin. Shakal Tarkav de Dinri Va'azo and take a bunch of money and get her out. Omar Reb Meir said, Elois Avid by Yisura, if she was not Mizaneh, Misaveh Nisa, and this will occur. He of the Isura, and if she did do an Isur, Lois Avid Nisa. In other words, he's not taking any credit for this, Reb Meir. He's saying if she didn't do an Isur, that's right for an S to take place, and if she did do an Isur, then it's not. Azul Nakan Nafshe, Kichad Parsha, he repeated his Parsha is like a cavalry man. I mean, notice he went to go ahead into to this place. And Amallah Hishmi'inili, he went ahead and he propositioned her. Amallah, she told him, Dishtana Anna. I'm Dishtana. Rashi says I'm in the way of woman. I'm a Nida. Amallah, he said, Misrachna Mirsach, I'll wait. Amallah, she said to him, Nefishin Tuva the Shapir Minoi. There are many Zainas here who are more prettier than I. Amar Shmami Nolay of the Isura. And it said Reb Meir, so from this I can ascertain that what? She didn't do an Isser. Called the Asi Armalei. Anyone that would approach her, she would say this. So Azal Gabi Shaimer Dida, there was a Shaimer over her, and Reb Meir went to him. Amalei Hava Nehla, give it to me, or Nehlei. Amalei Mistafina Melchusa, I'm worried about the Malchus. How can I do that? Amalei, listen, Shekol Takavadin, we take this bag of money. Palga Plach, here if you'll go ahead and bribe Rome with it. We'll Palga the Habilach, and the other one will go to you. Amalei. Maya of it, right? And when it gets used up, what can I do? And I don't have enough money to bribe. Amalei Ema Elakod de Meir Aneni. Literally, the God of Meir Aneni answer me. Umi Salt, and you'll be saved. So Amalei said, the guy said to Reb Meir, Mi Ema Hachi. How do you know it's going to work? So how do you know it's going to work? So Amalei Hashtachas, as you'll see. There was the dogs that literally they ate people. They would bite people. Shakal Kala, Reb Meir took a clod and Shadabu, and he threw a clod of earth and threw it on top of them. Habikasal and Mechle, they came to go ahead and attack them. Amar, Elakad Meir Aneni. He said, Akad Meir Aneni. Shavkuhu, V'yavle, let him go. The Soif Ishtaman Milsa, it heard what he did, Bei Malka. Asua a school is kifa, and they were going to go ahead and hang this guy. So Reb Meir broke her out of the house of ill repute. He got her out. They heard what this guy did, and they're going to kill him. They're going to hang him. Omar, he said, Elokod Meir Aneni, and Achtua, and they couldn't get him. They said, probably they tried to hang him, the rope broke, or whatever happened. In other words, no matter how much they tried, they couldn't hang him. So Amar lay my high, but what's going on? So Amar lahu hachi havi ma'aseh. He told me exactly what happened. So also chakaku l'musei the Remeya apiska the Raimi. They put Remeya up in the post office, guys. They put Remeya up, and the sign. They put him up. You're gonna get him. And what happened? Amar called the chazi lepritzufa hadein less. Anyone who sees this person will bring it to us. Yumachad chayzua. They saw him. Rod Abbasrei and Ram Mikamayo, and Remeya was a fugitive. All the Beis Zaynis, he went into Beis Zaynis. Ikadiyami b'shuli of the Mechaza. Others say that he saw the cooking of the goyim, and Tamaba, he put his finger in a mustard and he tasted it. Ikadiyami also Eliyahu admile kisayna and karachte and hugged him. Amrichas v'shalom. He Remeya havi ovid hachi. In other words, that was the ones chasing said that couldn't be Remeya because he wouldn't either go into a house of Zaynis or he wouldn't go ahead and taste bishalakim or he wouldn't be grabbed by a Zayna. So Kamar Asla Bavel, Remeya went to Bavel. Ikadiyami may high Maisa. Some say it was this Maisa, Ikadiyami, the Maisa the Bruya, the Maisa Bruya. Maisa Bruya, Rashi, it's a mitzvah to know this. I'm just bringing it in, even though it's Agav. So it says, if you look at Rashi, Ikadiyami, Maisa the Bruya, Shepamachas Ligla al Sham Chazal, Noshim Daitan Kalis, Hein Alayo. The Bruya was a very strong woman, said that the Gemara says, Noshim Daitan Kalis, that they're gullible. She laughed at that. So Amar Lo Meir told her, "Chayecha seifcha lehoidos levrayim." You're going to go ahead what, and you're going to go ahead and you're going to see you're wrong. But Siva lechem talmidav. Meir was mitzvah one of his talmidim, then soisel ledavar avera to go ahead and proposition her. The hiftza b'yomim rabim. This talmid many days went ahead and approached Bruya, ad shenis ratzis until she agreed. Ukshenoidala. And when she found out, Chanka, she hung herself, Atzma, because of his embarrassment, he ran away. So the Mepharshim on this kasha, it's not possible that Remeya, first of all, that Bruya would do such a thing, but secondly, that Remeya would set up his Talmud. What's the heter for the Talmud to be an Ish, right? Guys, how can the Talmud be an Ish? So he says, Itaka, the Medrash, he brings a Medrash that, I'll quote it. Seifa Hadaris Orach. The Seifa Hadaris Orach, Remeya Kosav, Shekenis Ratzis Nichlas Remeya Tachas HaTalmud. Remeya, it was not the Talmud that ended up with her, it was Remeya. But she was so embarrassed that she thought it was the Talmud, she killed herself. But Chas v'Sholom, that Remeya would have gone ahead, and in other words, her kavana was she was being Mizana. That's why she killed herself in the embarrassment. But in fact, it was Remeya.
I don't know if it was. I came on late.
Here's the Marsha, fellas, on this Gemara. The Yesh L'Dagdik. You can see it? Yeah? You see it? The Yesh L'Dagdik. Heich Yichid Remeya Shmoi Shal HaKadosh Baruch Hu Al Atzmai B'chayav. How could Remeya say Hashem Demeir Aneni? How could he use Hashem's name on his own when he's alive? Shei Omru Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu Miyachid Shmoi Al Tzadikim B'chayayim. Kadosh Baruch Hu does not is miyachid attach his name to tzaddikim while they're alive. Shneimar Elokei Avram uPachad Yitzchak. When Yaakov davens, he says Elokei Avram. It doesn't say Elokei Yitzchak. He says Pachad Yitzchak. You know why? Because Yitzchak was still alive, guys. Yitzchak was still alive, so he says Pachad Yitzchak. V'yesh leimar the leomer Elokod demeir rak l'simin ba'alma al shemoi v'lein niskavin kol ikar al shemoi. He wasn't mechavin for the noun. Rak niskavin elokod demeir la'aretz, the verb elokod that illuminates the world. Uladarim aleha, and those who live on it. Hu yanenu, he'll answer him. Aishamar elokod demeir lanu b'malchus yavan, or the mayor who will go ahead, who illuminated during the malchus of Yavan hakodemes benes haneiroi shel Chanukah, k'moy sheyisid apayit umier lecha meir hu yanenu lahatzlo sanu benes miyadehem. It's a beautiful, beautiful guy. I show you here. He's learning that they can't say the name of Meir, right? Because he's alive. So he's saying it doesn't mean Meir. It's a siman of Meir means illuminate. So just like how Hashem illuminated during the Ness of Hanukkah this is the Greeks were before the Romans. The Ness of Hanukkah happened before. So it goes that Hashem that did that should go ahead and perform a Ness for us. It's a beautiful, beautiful marsha.
Blaze, is your tape off? Are you taping?
I just thought, was that recorded?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I put the tape on before. Thank you. I put it on beforehand. Okay. So that's the Maisa, and this is why he's called Rav Meir Balanes, guys. From this Maisa he was called Rav Meir Balanes. That's
not from the Pushka boxes is why we call Maria Balanez.
Dov, you're saying very, very good. Okay, saying very, very good. And Mitzvah Hashem, you can have a chavrusa shub with Heshi and discuss your chidushim. Okay. Okay, guys, it's very important that Maisa with Bruya. It's important to make note of that. Again, it comes up and people ask that question, like how Rameya set up his Talmud, set up his wife. It's kind of schwer. We said a person goes to a stadium or to 12. I don't know, it was a siege. I don't know what it was when they would siege cities, but they would have always said they would have a lot of late sunnahs going on there. And they saw people who practice nichush, some type of conjugations. And v'es hachavarim, snake people who go ahead and snake charmers. Bukyin, umulyin, velulyin, belurin, salgurin. These are all types of clowns and jesters. It's a Moshe Leitzim. It's a Moshe Leitzim. V'aleim akasav leimer ashrei yisha shalei holach. Right. Ki and b'tar Hashem cheftzai. Cholamada tosha devar malalu. Maybe a person gets involved with jesters and these type of things. Maybe it's adam l'day bittul Torah. It makes a person mad to bittul Torah. Or minalesh you a steer. You said you couldn't go to a stadium, you can't go to a siege. It says holchem stadium mutter. You could go to a stadium. If neishet soiveach umatzil. You know the gladiators. Remember, guys, thumbs up, thumbs down. If you're there and it's a Jew that's being killed, you have a ability to go ahead and put your thumbs up. So by you being there, you can be able to be matzil on the shama. If neishet soiveach matzil. Ulacharkem mutter mifnei yishuv medina. And you can go when they're sieging a city, you can go there because Yishuv Medina. Rashi says Yisrael Adorim Ba'Yisrael. You'll be able to save the Jews in the city. Shezem Mevakesh B'nei Yishuv Hachakam Letzilam. That you'll ask the people who are sieging the city. You can have an influence upon them. So Bishlei Hachakam Hachakam as long as you don't go ahead and become part of the siegers, you don't become part of them. You don't go ahead and give them money or aid them in any way, then you could go. But if you do aid them in any way, it's not good. However, then also. So kasha it's tadin is tadinum. We said the first one said you can't go, and here we have a bite that you could go. Kasha chakam akarkam. The first one said you can't. His said you could. But bishleim chakam akarkam is not kasha, is not a problem. The first one that says you can't go is that what you're considered among them and you're helping them. The second one, what is speaking where you didn't help him. Therefore, it's mutter. It's tanin and kasha. How can you go? It says you can go to a stadium. You can't go to a stadium. You could go to a stadium. Tanoy, it's machlokes tanoyim. In holchem it's tadinim. Moshe leitzim. You can't go with taninim because of what? It's a Moshe leitzim. Rev nasin matter right lefnei shnei devarim. Echad lefnei shetzavech matzel. Perhaps you can go ahead and if it's a Jew, you can save him. And conversely, if it's a Jew that's being killed, you'll be able to testify that his wife should be able to marry. I have written down over here, Mesilas Yesharim, fellas. He defines a letz as someone who just makes anything that's serious, he makes light of it. Certainly, Torah, but he makes light. Everything's a joke. There's nothing. Life has no importance to them. Everything is a late sonis. Everything's a joke. Tan Rabbanan. You can't go to the theaters or the circuses. Rashi says the lashon of interesting lashon. Rashi and Tosfos. What's the lashon of mizavlin sham? Misadrim tzorchi avodas kechavim. They go ahead and they put together the needs of their avodas Zorah. There's not they brought a gift to it. Mizavlin is lashon is baluni ishi by Zvulun. Inyan chaniya shel chibor. It's an Inyan of encampment of being together. Look at it at the second place, this Pirsha conscious lashon yaz bilenu ishi, convening together. Atzkol chayjizit. Rabbeinu Tam Pirish mizavlim mizvachim. It's lashon of bringing karbonis. Because it's chashad of avodah zarah, you're involved with this. And in a place where they don't go ahead and bring karbanis, it's also not also avodah zarah, but also being Moshe Leitzim. My binai, what's the difference between the two? The difference is between them. According to Rabbi, if you're going to go there for business, and there was avodah zarah there, any money could have a shem avodah zarah. But later chacham, that's Moshe Leitzim, you'd be permitted to use the money. You'd be permitted to use the money because there's no attachment to avodah zarah. Darsh Reb Shimon ben Pazi, my dechsiv, Ashrei isha shaloi halach ba'atzis b'shayim. David's opening into Tehillim. Fortunate is the person that does not go in the eitzes of Rishayim. U'derech chatoyim lo'yamad. It's the lashon of lehalach, and he doesn't go ahead and stand there. If you don't go there, how can you possibly be standing there? If you're not standing there, how can you sit down and be there? So if you're not sitting there, how can you be part of the scoffing? If you do go, so if you do go, you're going to end up standing there. If you end up standing there, so you're going to end up sitting there. If you end up sitting there, so then you'll be in riots. If you became your chacham, then lach the latzta levadcha tisa. So if you go ahead and you become smart, I guess, but if you go ahead and you let's, then you will levadcha, you alone tisa, you'll carry a chet. Amar Reb Elazar, kol hamislaytzim yisurim b'ayin alav. Anyone who's mislayitz, he gets Yisurim. Shneimar v'ata altis letzuni pen yechasu mois rechem. Mois rechem is lashon of Yisurim. Amalu Rabbi l'Rabbanan. Amalu Rav l'Rabbanan. Rabbi said to Chomim, "V'tus minach, I beg you, be'inan minaychu deloy tisleitzu. You shouldn't become, again, this everything's a joke. Deloy leisei alaychu Yisurim. You shouldn't get Yisurim. Amrav katina kol misleitzeis mizaynasa mismatim. Anyone who's a letz, he goes ahead and he's going to diminish his food. Shneimar mashach yodai es leitzim. Kadosh Baruch Hu, he pulls his hand away from leitzim and he won't give them their parnasa. Amar Shem ben Lakish kol hamis leitzim neifel b'gehenim. You end up going to Gehenim. Shneimar ze yohir leitz shemoi oise be'eva zadayin. Okay, be'ein evra el Gehenim. So therefore you're going to end up Gehenim. Shneimar yom evra hayom hahu. Amar Baishia kol misyair. Anyone who's about gaiva neifel b'gehenim will end up Gehenim. Shneimar Zayd Yohir Leitz Shemoy Oise Be'evas Zadain Be'never El Gehenim Shnema Yom Evra Yom Ahu. Amar Reb Tanchum Bar Chaniloi Kol Misleitzes Goyim Kloy Lo'ilam. Anyone who's a letz, he causes the world to be ruined. Shnema V'ata Al Tisleitzu Pen Yachsu Moisreihem Kolo. This is the end of that passage. We said we get Yisurim. It says Kolo V'nechwatza Shamati. For Kolo construction V'nechwatza is also Shamati is lashon of destruction. Rabbi Elazar kasha haya she techila yisurim. How bad is late sinus? The first in the beginning you get yisurim, the seifa koloya, and in the end, what it end up being destroyed. Okay, Darsh of Shimon and Pazi, my dechsiv asher isha shalei halach. Okay, we'll stop over here. We'll do this. Okay, we'll do this tomorrow. Thank you, everyone for listening.